is ever done.
And this monster starts running right at me.
Annihilated by nuclear bombs.
Beast is not dead. I put 4 bullets into him.
Oh, you're crazy.
But I saw that monster too. All I want is for someone to believe me.
Contaminated.
Face. It's horrible. Look like it would scare you to death.
All right, let's get to work.
Beyond the shadows. They say the Borley Rectory was just a house. Brick and mortar, windows and doors. But on certain nights, it became a doorway. It's the summer of 1900. 4 young women, the daughters of Reverend Henry Bull, are standing in the quiet lane outside the rectory. The air is still, the night is calm. When they hear it, the distant rumble of iron-rimmed wheels on cobblestone, sound from another century. Out of the darkness, a black coach emerges, spectral horses, snoring clouds of mist and smoke, a driver hunched in a tattered cloak. But the wheels never touch the ground. The entire carriage glides silently past, drifting through the hedgerow as if the earth itself will not hold it. The women don't move, they barely breathe. And as the coach disappears into the shadow of the rectory, one of them whispers a single word, the name locals have feared for generations. The Nun. Some say she rides to find her forbidden lover, others say she rides to warn the living. This is the story of the Borley Rectory, the most haunted house in England.
Welcome, everybody. Season 2, Episode 30 of Beyond the Shadows podcast. Episode 30. We are well past the halfway point of the year. We are knocking them back this year. Geez, 1 week after another, we are really doing well, I think. I think we're doing well. How's everyone doing? I'm your intrepid paranormal investigator, Victus. And tonight we are covering the Borley Rectory, the quote-unquote most haunted place in England. We'll see. We'll be the judge of that. Well, first things first, we've got paranormal news to go through. We've got a few little new things this evening. The big thing is we've got some ghost-related things. So right now, the Annabelle doll and recent incidents are a recent focus of paranormal news revolves around the death of paranormal investigator Dan Rivera, who was touring with the alleged haunted Annabelle doll. Reports suggest rumors connected his sudden passing to the doll, fueling further speculation and discussion among paranormal enthusiasts. We knew this one, but Newsweek reports that a paranormal investigator associated with the tour featuring the infamous Annabelle doll recently passed away. And this investigator's death was sudden. So the details are starting to come clear. It's not 100% like what we've been hearing. No, it's not. He did not die on the tour, unfortunately. But that is the current speculations. Warnings regarding the Warren's Occult Museum. The purchase of Ed and Lorraine Warren's Occult Museum by Matt Rife and Elton Castille has drawn warnings from paranormal investigators about potential risks associated with the artifacts housed there, especially in light of recent Annabelle doll incidents. Accounts of unexplained phenomena in everyday life continue to capture attention online with reports of mysterious occurrences like car doors opening by itself, caught on CCTV, and gaining millions of views. People also have been sharing stories of strange occurrences in their homes, such as a family finding a chilling message in a closet and a mom baffled by what she saw while filming her toddler. I'll let you go down that rabbit hole. We do have a little bit of UFO news. The Pentagon continues to investigate UFOs, now officially referred to as unidentified aerial phenomenon, or UAPs. They have released reports and held hearings to discuss sightings. While some cases remain under active investigation, sightings of these phenomena continue to be reported, including descriptions of unusual objects like green fireballs and jellyfish with flashing lights. Newsweek mentions a recent hearing featuring defense officials discussing reports of unidentified aerial phenomena. We have a cryptid sighting. The search for cryptids like the Loch Ness Monster continues with recent reports of a sighting like the one recorded in May of 2025. Additionally, scientists have documented a rare Sasquatch event in Yellowstone National Park referring to unusual eruptions in thermal pools. So yeah, we do have a little bit of seismic activity happening in Yellowstone right now. There are whispers of the geysers acting up and maybe a volcano eruption or something. Either way, the ground is moving over there and it's shaking things up, and the things that live there don't like it. Other unexplained phenomena were recently reported, including the Marfa lights in Texas, known for their unpredictable appearances, and the Hessdalen lights in Norway, characterized as mysterious unidentified lights in the night sky. Yeah, we're not going to get too far into this next part. Yeah, I don't want to get on. Scientific investigations continue to explore phenomena like the Hessdalen lights, considering potential explanations such as plasma formations or piezoelectric effects. Though many aspects remain unexplained, NASA also launched a study on UAPs, emphasizing the need for more scientific inquiry and less stigma surrounding the topic. So thank you, NASA, for that. I appreciate that. And that is your week in news. We need like a jingle, like a news. Wait, that's just in paranormal news. I'll figure out something. Just you wait. We'll get something going. So how is everyone tonight? Thank you so much for the new, we got a handful of new subscribers on YouTube. Unfortunately, your privacy settings are set so high that I couldn't see who you are, but thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. I appreciate every single one of you. We had a good run this week with our live restream. We didn't do it too long, but we did do it. It's looking like the numbers are getting a little bit better. They slowed down for a while. I think I was overwhelming everyone with the live restream. We did get some cool, we got some people actually interacting in chat on the YouTube live stream, and that seemed to really kick off pretty well. So thank you to all you new subscribers on YouTube. I really appreciate every single one of you. And if you notice in the upper left-hand corner, wait, oh, it's backward. So it's my right, your left. Upper left-hand corner, we have a QR code now. So scan that little QR code. I will drop it on the socials, but that QR code will take you directly to our business page where you can find all of the links to all of our socials, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, what have you. We're there. We're everywhere. But all the links, and it includes our glorious email address that if you have something you wanted to say, email us, tell us how bad we're doing. I'll read your email if you're telling us we're doing bad. I don't care. But if you've got a story that you want to tell, something that's happened to you, something paranormally related, come on, tell me. Shoot us an email at beyondshadowspodcast@gmail.com. You can scan this QR code up here, and it'll give you a link straight to the email. So check that out. How cool is that? So yeah, that's all of our updates for the week. We're not going to dilly-dally, as one of my favorite podcasters like to say. I'm not going to dilly-dally too much here at the top. We're going to jump into our next little segment. And I'm just curious, but what shirt are you wearing today? Do you know what shirt you're wearing today? Because I know what shirt I'm wearing today. Let's find out. Yeah, I can't dance. Thank you for that. So, I've got a special shirt on tonight. This was a gift from a friend of mine. Not gonna dox her, but good friend. She does a lot of traveling, and every time she's in anywhere that we've talked about here within the United States, she travels a lot. And if she's anywhere within any of the places that we talk about here in the podcast, she always sends a picture. And she's constantly searching for the Jersey Devil and Mothman for me. All over the place. Yeah, every time she's in those areas, she sends me a picture of the names of the parks. But this was a gift in honor of the podcast. So check this guy out. Ooh. Love me some good cryptoids. cryptoideals, and I actually went to a thrift store today and got compliments immediately walking in the door on this shirt. So thank you to the people at the Blue Crow Antiques for the cool nod of my shirt. And a lot of people don't appreciate this. I appreciate it. Thank you. But without further ado, we are going to jump into tonight's episode. And this is Season 2, Episode 30 of Beyond the Shadows podcast. Tonight, we are talking about the Borley Rectory. So I'd heard the name before studying for or researching for tonight's episode. I've heard the name. I couldn't tell you a whole lot about it before research started. But you know, now that I've done a little bit of research, I'm hearing that we've got a lot of stuff to go through. Our script tonight is a little longer than usual. So I will be running and rambling for a good chunk tonight because I do want to try to get everything in there, but I don't want to take over 2 hours doing it. Also, we're going to have some new elements in the podcast tonight. Just a heads up. I was born in the 80s, grew up through the 90s, early 2000s, so I watched a lot of Cartoon Network, watched a lot of Adult Swim. I have a friend of mine. He is also a streamer. Shout out Heffies. I see he's the only one watching right now. Thank you, Hefner. He does the same kind of general thing. And what I'm doing tonight is I'm taking a page from old school Adult Swim, and my script writing is already broken up into 5 acts. That's just how the script writing works for me. It's good to break it up into pieces so I can, fill in some of the blanks, flesh out some things. Like I don't like the balance of Act 2, so I made Act 2 longer this week. Whereas like Act 1 is a little shorter. Act 3, 4, and 5 are right around 4,000 words, normal sized. But Act 2 is huge because there was tons of stuff in that section that I wanted to get. So every time we hit a new section, a new act, we're going to get one of these. And that will be the signal for act changing. So, oh my gosh, I said it already. I've already said so. I said it again. Got some cold beers tonight. I'm feeling good. I got good rest last night. Was productive today. So we are going to jump in to tonight's episode on the Borley Rectory. Are you ready for Act 1? Because I am. Let's get into it. Easy peasy. Act 1. Welcome, everybody. Act 1. The Birth of a Legend. 1863 to 1927. By the time the newspapers would call it the most haunted house in England, the Borley Rectory had already lived a lifetime of rumors. The building's story began plainly enough: a new rectory for small Essex parish, raised in 1863 for Reverend Henry Dawson Ellis Bull and his growing family. It was large for a country. Vicarage. That's it. Gabbled brick, long corridors, more rooms than most neighborhoods can count, and parishioners joked that the rector must be planning to found a boarding school. In truth, he was building for a brood. Henry and his wife would raise 14 children under that roof. The land itself felt older than the parish. Villagers told visitors about a medieval priory said to have stood nearby, and a cautionary tale repeated in hushed tones. A nun and a monk, lovers discovered and condemned. The monk supposedly executed, and the nun bricked up alive or buried where she fell. No registry proves that tragedy, but folklore rarely bothers with paperwork. What mattered was that locals believed it, and that they believed the ground remembered. From the start, the rectory's layout encouraged stories. It sat slightly apart from the village, ringed by hedges and trees that made dusk arrive early. A narrow lane curved past the front gate. Beyond it stretched fields that turned silver under the moon. At the back garden, a straight gravel path lined with shrubs became known as the Nuns' Walk. The name didn't come from the architect's plans, it came from what people said they saw. The Bowl Children, which is an absolutely ridiculous name for children. The Bowl Children? Bowl? Jeez. I mean, I guess it makes sense. Couldn't use their first name. God forbid. The Bowl Children were the first to report it. In the late 1860s and 1870s, several of them, daughters and sons on different days, described a veiled figure gliding along the garden path in broad daylight. She held her hands together, head slightly bowed, passing so close that leaves brushed her habit without disturbing it. She didn't look at them. She didn't look at anything. She kept to the path as if retracing a long-vanished cloister. Youngsters who laughed or called out soon learned to lower their voices. The sighting had a way of stilling you. Reverend Henry was not quick to sensationalize. He took notes, asked questions, and discouraged gossip, at least from his pulpit. Privately, the family treated the apparition as a fact of household life. Servants came and went with their own stories, footfalls in empty halls, bells ringing without a pull, keys found in the wrong doors. In the perennial servant's dread, and the perennial servant's dread, feeling watched while alone at night, but with no one to blame when you turn and see only your candle guttering. But by the 1800s, the rectory had acclaimed a reputation. Gardeners from neighboring houses reported seeing the nun outside the hedge line, walking where there was no path. A coachman cutting along the lane in fog claimed a black carriage skimmed past him, wheels silent and horses steaming with cold that bit through his gloves. He swore the coach turned through the hedge as if the hedge were smoke. He quit the village before winter. And in 1892, Reverend Henry died. The living passed to his son. Reverend Harry Bull, not Ball, Bull, who knew the stories because he'd grown up inside them. Harry had a different temperament from his father, warmer with parishioners, more playful with myth. He built a little summer house at the far end of the garden, positioned to face the Nuns' Walk directly. Friends teased that he made a viewing box, like a gentleman setting out to watch foxes run. Harry shrugged. If the parish had a legend, he wasn't going to pretend it didn't. Sightings continued. A curate, staying the night after a harvest supper, was led to his guest room by a maid who refused to carry the candlestick past a certain turn in the corridor. Quote, "She keeps there," the maid whispered. The curate asked who. The maid didn't say, but later she woke to the sound of a light tapping from inside the wardrobe. When he opened it, there was only his case and the faint smell of wet stone, as though rain had been stored on the shelf. Family letters from this period, some preserved, some referenced by later chronicles, describe low-level disturbances that added up over the years. Misplaced prayer books, slates that scribbled themselves with nonsense lines, cutlery laid into patterns no one admitted to arranging. None of it proved anything, but all of it changed how people moved through the house. Children learned to skirt one particular landing step that sometimes wasn't there. Servants adopted the habit of leaving two doors open so there was always a second exit. And guests found that no matter where they put their hat, it would be waiting by the wrong door when they left. Then came the nun in daylight. An incident retold so often, the edges of fact and family folklore blurred. It was said that the two Bull daughters encountered the apparition near the shrubbery border one bright afternoon and approached within a few feet. One of the girls tried to speak, the other reached out a cautious hand. The figure faded, not like a person turning to go, but like breath leaving a window pane. The girls ran, then returned with their father, who only found crushed gravel where knees might have pressed. Stories like this seeded the parish with certainty. You didn't have to see the nun yourself to believe she walked. It was enough that your cousin's fiancé had, or the chairwoman's brother, or the postman's daughter, who had no reason to lie and didn't like attention. That is how haunted places expand, person to person, confidence to confidence, until the building is larger inside than its rooms. The Phantom Coach joined the cast that, with more insistence, in the 1890s. A farmhand coming back late claimed a black coach with a cloaked driver crossed the rectory grounds without using to drive. The horse's hooves kicked up no dust. A pair of village boys dared to wait by the hedge after dark, swore they heard wheels over stone long before anything appeared and long after it had gone, with the sound moving at a steady pace like a procession. Children began to avoid the lane at twilight. Parents started to make a point of using it then, because you can't let legend direct your errands. Not every report was spectral. Some were simply unsettling. Parish visitors complained of a sudden cold in few spots, a right angle turn on the second floor corridor, a strip near the scullery hatch, a rectangle on the stairs that made you feel you'd stepped into water. The Bulls had plumbers in. The plumbers shrugged. Old houses trapped drafts. Drains made noises, wood settled. A rational inventory could account for every creak, until a door latched itself from the inside, or a child announced that a lady was in the garden and had asked her to keep walking. The village itself adjusted to the rectory the way a stream adjusts to a rock, not with fight, but with a curve. Local tradesmen preferred to deliver in the morning. The blacksmith told a story about tools gone missing from a satchel on the rectory step, only to find them set out in a tidy line in the lane where when he left. Handles parallel, blades shining. He was a tidy man himself. He recognized when something was showing off. Meanwhile, Reverend Harry kept the parish going. Christenings, funerals, the rhythm of service, life carried on. The rectory's oddities were not the whole of anyone's day, but they were the part of the parish's identity. And identity has inertia. Visitors came asking to see the nuns walk. A few were rewarded, but most were given tea and reassurances that the house was perfectly ordinary in the daylight, which was true. A place can be ordinary most of the time and still be extraordinary enough to change a village's story. By the turn of the century, the Bull's other children were leaving home. Some took the rectory's tales with them into marriages and postings. Others looked back at the stories with affectionate skepticism. It's a family thing, they'd say. Old houses, large imaginations. But then they return for Christmas and find that the old service bells juttered? I don't know that word. Why did I put it in there? Juttered on their own. And that the little clock on the... I can't read right now. Wow. My writing's all over the place. Lip, I see you there. How you doing, friend? Let's try this paragraph again. Glad to have you here, as always. We've got we have new assets and elements in the stream tonight. I hope you're a Cartoon Network fan, specifically an Adult Swim fan. You will immediately recognize the assets when you see them. All right, let's find out where I left off here. Well, yeah, let's try to reread this. It's a family thing, they'd say. Old houses, large imaginations. But then they return for Christmas and find that the old service bells juttered on their own, and that the little clock in the blue bedroom preferred to stop at 3:40. And their skepticism would gather dust on a high shelf, while their childhood habits, don't whistle on the back stairs, don't touch the wardrobe latch twice, came down polished and ready. Death visited again in June of 1927 when Reverend Harry Ball died after decades in the post. The rectory, now too big for one person and too storied for easy sale, fell quiet. Windows stayed shuttered longer. Ivy took liberties. Villagers reported that the house looked as if it were holding its breath, a phrase people use when silence feels like waiting. A new rector had to be found, and in the meantime, rumors breathed for everyone. This lingering pause, half-empty rooms, caretakers doing their rounds, a legend with nowhere to go, set the stage for what would happen next. When Reverend Guy Eric Smith and his wife Mabel arrived in 1928, they walked into a building that already had a script. They didn't write the first line. They simply delivered their cues. Before the Smiths, Borley Rectory's haunting had been intimate, a collection of family memories, servants' grievances, and of village anecdotes stitched over 60 years. It had witnessed, yes, but not yet an audience. The years between 1863 and 1927 were the slow burn, a house acquiring personality, a parish deciding what it believed, and a string of incidents that, taking singly, could be dismissed, but together formed a pattern strong enough to survive skepticism in time. So, what makes Act 1 essential to the story is precisely that pattern, that we have a consistent apparition, the nun, reported across generations and classes. We have recurrent sounds with no clear mechanical cause, localized cold that ignores the weather, and object movement that exceeds mischief yet falls short of proof. We have a setting primed by legend and witnesses who didn't start as believers but adapted to what they saw. And we have a house whose legend grew alongside a family, so that by the time the bulls were gone, the rectory itself felt like the last bull left behind. Stubborn, memorable, impossible to ignore. So when the Smiths turned the key in 1928, they inherited more than a residence. They inherited expectation, the kind that either crushes the story or pulls it forward. In Borley's case, it did the latter. The quiet years were over. The rectory had been patient. Now it would ask to be heard. Okay, so that is Act 1. We set a baseline here. So we have initial hauntings going back to the initial build of the actual rectory back in 1863. This goes way back. So what we're looking at, I said the word, jeez. The baseline. Initially, all we're dealing with is a spectral nun seen in a path, a horse-drawn wagon, a black, what's the word? What? I can't think of the stupid word. What's the word that they used? Blah, 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 blah. It's not a wagon. Geez, what did they call it? A coach. A spectral coach. So a black spectral coach being pulled by black horses that when it appears, it makes the area cold. It never touches the ground, but it leaves the sound of metal wooden wheels on cobblestone. Out of the gate. And the local legend says that what we're dealing with here is a nun that was put to death, and a monk that was put to death. Forbidden lovers. Wait.
Forbidden lovers.
So we all know from basic folklore, the roots of any folklore, to the present day haunting stories. What is the spurned lover? Yes, the spurned lover. When love is involved and it's not meant to be, there becomes a psychic imprint made on places. So I think out of the gate already we're looking at what is called a residual haunting. So the nun is always seen on the walkway, and the coach is always seen on the same road, and it always takes the same path. So I can explain through the concept of residual haunting why these hauntings happen the way they do. So usually, let's say originally the path for the coach followed a curve and then there was a sharp left turn into the property. But today, that sharp left turn isn't there. It'll go all the way around to the front of the property. So if you have a residual haunting that used to take that sharp left turn onto the original, driveway, for the lack of a better word, of the property, and then you get rid of that driveway, build a hedge there, and now your driveway's, another 1,000 foot down the road, the residual haunting's still going to do what it does. This is precisely what a residual haunting does. That's why we see so many hauntings in old houses that have spectral characters, people, men, women, whatever, and they'll just be walking down a hallway and turn and walking through a wall. Because if you look at the original floor plans of those buildings, where they turn and walk through, there used to be a doorway. And so these are residual hauntings. It's like psychic energy that is stored in the ground, for the lack of a better explanation, that's stuck in that area, stuck on repeat. It's like a record skipping. It's always just going to do the same thing over and over again. That's why we always see the nun on the same path, and we always see the coach on the same path. This is a residual haunting, and usually these fall into a category that's not necessarily malevolent, but this is the category of something happened to leave a strong psychic impression on the ground, and this is why we're seeing what we're seeing. I'm going to take a guess and say the monk was put to death, and one of two rumors for the nun was she was buried alive or she was bricked into a wall. I'd be willing to wager the nun was bricked into a wall. It was this extreme psychic energy that caused the imprint to happen. Residual energy. A residual haunting. It's very common. This is the best explanation I can give you for a residual haunting. That being said, I think it's interesting that we have a baseline of a residual haunting. But the way the script is building, it seems like we've got more coming in the following acts. I'm getting Rose Red vibes. I don't know if any of you have seen this TV show or read the book by Stephen King, Rose Red. It's like a house goes dormant until there's more psychic energy put into it, and then it wakes up. Wakes up, heavy air quotes here. Wakes up. And then the hauntings begin. It'll be quiet for 1,000 years, and then somebody comes in who is, and we see this a lot in a lot of paranormal investigations. Somebody will come into a house that is not active, and they don't know that they have some latent psychic abilities, and their psychic energy feeds the paranormal activity happening in that house. Well, the house has been empty. There's no psychic energy to feed it. And we know we have a residual haunting. It was placed there by psychic energy. And so we know that in order to replay these events, we need more psychic energy. So odds are somebody in the family of this new reverend has probably got some latent psychic ability they don't know about, and they're going to start feeding the house the second they walk in, triggering more events. And depending on the amount of energy put into it is the amount of energy you're going to get out. So I feel like probably this new reverend, him or someone in his family has some very strong psychic abilities, because from this point forward we're going to see an escalation of activity. You dig? You dig? Now we get to use one of the new assets. I hope you guys are ready for this. Big Adult Swim fan. There we go. Let's move on to
Act 2.
all right. Act 2, the Smith era, from 1928 to 1929. So already we're dealing with a small time gap compared to the Bull family, which is 1863 to 1927. Now we're dealing with the Smith family from 1928 to 1929. So, spoiler alert, this family only makes it a year. When Reverend Guy Eric Smith and his wife Mabel first set eyes on Borley Rectory in October of 1928, they saw exactly what the Church of England had promised. A spacious rectory close to a parish church, with plenty of room for a clergyman's duties. The ivy-clad brickwork had a certain charm, and the gardens, though overgrown, hinted at the genteel life it could offer. What the church committee hadn't mentioned, at least not in writing, was the building's history. The Smiths were strangers to Essex. Coming from a much smaller and newer accommodations, the sheer size of the Borley Rectory was both a blessing and a challenge. The long corridors, unused bedrooms, a sprawling attic that echoed in strange ways. The first few nights passed without incident, save for the odd creak or rattle that any old house might make. But before November ended, the peace was broken. It began with footsteps in the dark. Oh, wait, I got a sound for that. It began with footsteps in the dark. Steady, deliberate, coming from upstairs when both of them were downstairs. Guy would hurry up, only to find empty halls and doors still latched. Then came the bell rings. The servant call bells, disconnected for years, suddenly clang in the night. Mabel thought at first it might be electrical interference or rodents disturbing the wires. But when she mentioned it to the housekeeper, the woman simply nodded and said, "Ooh, wait, I'm gonna do a deep voice."
The Bull family had the same trouble.
The Smiths also began hearing soft whispering in certain rooms, always just beyond clear comprehension, as if the voice receded the moment they tried to locate it. Doors they knew they had shut were found standing open, and on several occasions Mabel reported hearing a horse-drawn carriage pass by the front gate, though when she looked, there was nothing but the empty lane. The most unnerving development came in early 1929. Mabel was cleaning a little used room when she noticed faint scrawled words on the wall. Chalky, childlike lettering. Thinking it was old marks from the Bull children, she scrubbed it away. Days later, more writing appeared. Some of the phrases were nonsense, but others seemed pointed. One in particular chilled her.
Marianne, please help me get out.
There was no Marianne in the household. Not yet. Not yet. These writings multiplied, sometimes appearing overnight, sometimes even as people stood in the room. They seemed to emerge from inside the plaster rather than being drawn on the surface. The letters were shaky, sometimes misspelled, and often accompanied by strange scribbling shapes. So by spring of 1929, the activity had grown too frequent to ignore. Unsure where to turn, Mabel wrote a letter to the Daily Mirror, asking if they knew of any psychic researchers who might investigate. The letter was published, and within days a journalist arrived at the rectory. The Mirror's coverage quickly turned the Smiths' quiet parish posting into a national curiosity. One article referred to Borley as, quote, the most haunted house in England, a phrase that would stick to the rectory forever. And it was through this publicity that Harry Price, the country's most famous ghost hunter, made his entrance. Harry Price. Harry freaking Price. Price arrived at the Borley on June 12 of 1929, bringing with him a photographer and an array of simple instruments. Cameras, thermometers, notebooks. Almost immediately, phenomena erupted. A small stone was thrown across the room, landing near Price's feet. Keys dropped from nowhere onto the floor. A mirror on the wall fell without breaking. Mabel swore this level of activity had never happened in such concentrated bursts until Price came. Whether that was coincidence, suggestion, or something else entirely became part of the long debate about Price's influence. In his own notes, Price described the house as having a, quote, oppressive atmosphere, and claimed to hear whispering voices, though he admitted he never could determine their source. He left after just a few hours, but promised to return for a more thorough investigation. But by the summer of 1929, the strain of living at the Borley Rectory was beginning to tell. Mabel in particular felt watched in her own home, and Guy's pastoral duties were being overshadowed by the endless questions from journalists and thrill seekers. One night, after the sound of heavy footsteps approached their bedroom... Oh wait, I got a sound for that. Oh, it starts with a knock. So, deal with a knock. When heavy footsteps approached their bedroom door and stopped inches from the threshold, yet no one was there, the Smiths decided they had enough. They resigned their post and moved out before the year was over. The rectory then stood vacant for a short time, the air inside heavy with silence, but Borley was not done. Its next occupants, the Foyster family, would bring the haunting to its most violent and controversial phase, and the mysterious Mary Ann of the wall writings would step directly into the story. Ooh, Act 1 was really setting the foundation here. Okay, so again, we're looking at the same thing. A family moves in, probably somebody with latent psychic abilities, feeds the house. A paranormal investigator, they specifically asked for a psychic investigator. I don't know if Harry Price claimed to ever have any psychic abilities. Let's look it up. No, Harry Price did not claim to have psychic abilities. He was a self-proclaimed psychic detective and ghost hunter, but his primary focus was on debunking fraudulent mediums and investigating paranormal claims using scientific and magical techniques, not on demonstrating his own psychic powers, according to the Science Museum Group Journal. He exposed mediums who claimed to communicate with spirits, often revealing their tricks and illusions. However, the guy did label himself a psychic detective. Seems a little weird to me, honestly. I almost feel like why give your...
British James Randi.
Wait, I know that name. Was that the Amazing Randy? Is that what they called him? I'm looking him up. James Randi.
Yeah, the skeptic magician guy who had the $1 mil prize.
That's right. Yeah. I think back in the day they called him the Amazing Randy or something like that. It says he was Canadian. He was born in Canada. Well, he died recently. That sucks. Yeah, his foundation fostered a community that valued inquiry and rational debate, making it safe and intelligent, enlightening space for those to seek understanding through the world of the lens of science and reasoning. Yeah. There's a really, really good podcast called The World's Greatest Con. And this...
Went around debunking all the seances and stuff.
Yeah, he, So in the podcast, The World's Greatest Con, shout out, hey, hit me up, guys, let's get somebody on the podcast. In The World's Greatest Con, he talks about how these kids were... I think it was like the government or something was trying to validate psychic abilities. And these two kids, they were like 12, 14 years old, infiltrated the program, and they were like straight up magicians, like sleight of hand. And they brought in James Randi to do his thing, and they fooled James Randi. And it wasn't until like, I don't know, like 2012 or 13, they came out and said, yeah, we faked the whole thing. And they did like, they wasted like $5 million of the government's money. I mean, a drop in a bucket, right? But they wasted $5 million something of the government's money doing research on legitimate psychic abilities. And really, it was just these two kids. Phenomenal podcast. The World's Greatest Con. Check it out. I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. But yeah, totally familiar with James Randi. Awesome. Didn't he have... Wait, what was the big famous one? The big one he was famous for. James Randi. Oh, he did some stuff with Penn and Teller. Okay. That might be what I'm thinking of. You know, I'm gonna dig into this a little bit more because I like the way this guy thinks. Yeah. We'll dig. You know, we might talk about him at a later time. But super cool. Yeah. Kudos. Good to mention. Oh my God. That guy's stereo so loud I could hear it over my headphones. Through the wall. Bruh, turn your stereo down. It's not that important. So now we've come to Act 2, everybody. Act 2. I'm repeating it like it's This American Life. Sorry, I'm an NPR kid. Let me do my best Ira Glass impression. We've come to Act 2 of our program, Act 2, where we discuss when Reverend Guy Smith and his wife move on from the rectory, and amazing things happen. That's the closest I can get to Ira Glass. Y'all can poke fun at me for liking NPR all you want. I love This American Life. It kept me going for years. Entertainment, that's all it is. NPR, I tell ya, NPR. We talked about this back at season 1. Me and Aeon. NPR kept me going for years. There was a bunch of really good shows that just aren't on the air anymore. That, 15 years ago, NPR was excellent. You could listen to it 9-10 hours straight, and it was so good. So freaking good. I miss the good days of NPR. I really do. Any hoots and hollers, we've moved on to Act 2, everybody. Act 2. Where we talk about the escalation of paranormal activities. Let's go. Act 2. When Reverend Guy Eric Smith and his wife Mabel accepted the living at Borley in the autumn of 1928, they were promised space and quiet. The rectory had both in abundance. The house rose from its overgrown garden like a ship at anchor. Brick dark and ivy bound, with windows staring out into low fields and the narrow lane curling past the gate. It was older than their marriage and larger than their prospects. To a clergyman used to the threadbare parsonages, it looked like fortune. They arrived with a handful of cases and crates of books. Jeez, why am I getting... What's going on? Why am I getting all these notifications? Sorry. They arrived with cases and crates of books, a small staff hired locally, and the clean resolve of people who have not yet learned the habits of a new house. The first week passed in practicalities. The carpenter mending a warped door, a glazier replacing 2 cracked panes, a handyman oiling hinges of a stubborn scullery hatch. Corridors seemed longer at night than by day. The attic, unused, groaned faintly when the temperature dropped. The Smiths exchanged tired smiles. Old houses complain. No one takes it personally. But by early November, the Smiths had mapped the building in their minds. Guy's study claimed the southeast corner where morning light fell. Mabel organized the drawing room and smaller sitting rooms she preferred for reading. They set aside an upstairs bedroom as a guest room, its window looking straight out onto the Nun's Walk, a gravel path bordered by shrubs along the garden's edge. They learned the small things quickly. Which floorboards protested, which latches needed 2 tries, which doormats shed grit you'd feel hours later in your socks. With each day, the house shrank to fit them better. However,
It did not say shrunken for long.
the first oddity Mabel noticed was simple: bells. The rectory, like many Victorian houses, had a servant bell system, once connected by wires to spring-loaded hammers. By the 1920s, the wiring was a museum piece, and most of the bells were disconnected. Yet one afternoon, while Mabel sorted linens in the corridor press, a bell rang. Once. Clear, metallic, unmistakable. She assumed a prank from the gardener's boy or some leftover tension in the spring. But the bell rang again that week, and again the next, sometimes far from where anyone was working. When she mentioned it to the housekeeper, the woman looked unreadable and said, "Yeah, they did that before." Footsteps followed. Footfalls at nights that... It's footfall at... Foot... Blah, 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 blah. Footfalls at night that did not match anyone's tread. Guy learned the sound of each person in the house, the gardener's careful stomp, the housekeeper's efficient stride, Mabel's light step that quickened when she was thinking. The steps heard after midnight were none of those. They came from the landing just outside their bedroom, from the corridor to the guest room, from the stairs' 7th tread that sometimes seemed to creak before a foot touched it. Twice he chased the sound, candlestick held like a baton, jaw set, heart hammering, only to find cold boards and a faint impression that the darkness had just rearranged itself. He started keeping notes in a bound book, date, time, location, sound, witnesses, weather, not because he wanted a haunting, but because he wanted control. The book steadied him. Mabel's first voice came in the north bedroom as she folded curtains for the seamstress. It was a soft, sibilant noise in the corner, like two women whispering from behind a fan. No words, only cadence. She turned to the sound, receded as if the wall had drawn breath. Later, she heard it again at the end of the long corridor. Each time it positioned itself just beyond clarity, the way a draft cools your neck without revealing its path. She told Guy in a practical tone, meant to downplay her unease. He listened without skepticism or relief. He simply added, whispering, to the notebook. Then they heard the village talk, almost immediately. People in Borley do not gossip loudly, but they do exchange information. An elderly parishioner asked, as if checking a minor detail in a hymn book, whether they had, quote, met the lady in the garden, end quote. A farmer said the lane felt busy on winter evenings, though he never saw anyone. A visiting curate from a nearby parish asked to be put up not in the guest room, but in a smaller chamber because, he said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, he, quote, slept better closer to the stairs. The Smiths learned that the Bull family's name, as one learns a town's history, through references that assumed familiarity. The Bulls had been here for decades. They had built the summer house, and at the end of the lawn facing the Nuns' Walk, ostensibly for fresh air and actually for a spectacle, or so people said. The nun herself, the centerpiece of the legend, came up most as a shrug. Sometimes seen, most not, but always possible. Guy and Mabel were not credulous, nor were they flippant. If anything, they were methodical. The bells might be a thermal change in the springs. The footsteps might be wood settling. The voices could be imagination primed by stress. But explanations do not always subtract effect. It still wore them down. And in December, keys began to misbehave. The rectory had many, each labeled in Mabel's careful hand and kept on hooks in the pantry. Twice she found a key from the top row placed on the lowest hook. Once Guy discovered the key to a lesser-used linen press lying on the floor by the back door, as if it had been dropped mid-errand by someone who vanished. They suspected staff at first, and the awkwardness of that suspicion soured the week. No one confessed, and nothing else went missing. On Christmas Eve, a party of parish children came to sing at the rectory door. After Coco and carols, Mabel walked the hall, picking up the drips from their boots with a rag. And as she passed the drawing room, she saw a small mirror on the mantel tilt, teeter, and fall to the hearthrug. The glass did not break. She later wrote in a letter, never posted, that the moment felt like, quote, a caution in bad handwriting. The writing began in January of 1929. Mabel found faint chalk-like lines on the wall of a seldom-used room off the landing, loops and hooks like a child practicing letters. She assumed it was, in fact, a leftover practice slate scribble that had transferred or some whitening in the old lime wash. She wiped it with a damp cloth, and a week later, on the opposite wall, more markings appeared. This time, a shaky phrase.
Help me.
The words were thin, as if drawn by a hand without weight. She cleaned those, too, more with vexation than fear. Yet in February, a third message appeared, lower on the plaster, near the skirting. The hand looked similar, but more insistent, and the phrasing stranger.
Marianne, please help me get out.
The name snagged her attention because no Marianne lived there, not staff, not neighbor, nor friend. She called Guy. He felt her and peered as if the letters might reveal the layering. They did not. The strokes looked not overlaid but emergent, as though the pigments were in the plaster themselves. He copied the sentence into his notebook as precisely as he could. The housekeeper, when told, crossed herself discreetly and said she had seen the wall scrawls during the Foyster rumor years. Though the Foysters had not yet arrived. The chronology caught in Mabel's throat. She asked what the old marks had said. Bits and bobs, the woman answered. Mostly nothing. Sometimes names. When the Smiths tried to watch the wall, nothing happened. When they went about their chores, phrases would appear, sometimes smudged, sometimes neat enough to read at a glance. Quote, light mass prayers. Quote, I am under. Quote, rest. On one occasion, Mabel found a cross drawn beside the word please, as if a schoolchild had attempted piety. She documented the messages by copying them into a notebook when they reappeared after cleaning, noting how the letter forms evolved. A few misspellings repeated please with 2 E's. Help with an E on the end. Was it the same hand? It looked so. By March, sleep was thin. Visitors, well-meaning, devout, or simply curious, asked questions the Smiths had no graceful way to answer. Guy's parish duties scattered under the weight of reputation. Yes, the bells. Yes, the steps. No, we cannot promise you will see anything. Yes, we wish it would stop. A friend suggested writing into the Daily Mirror, which sometimes connected peculiar cases with psychic researchers. It felt crass. It also felt practical. And on a rainy Monday in April 29, Mabel composed a letter that was brief and careful. Non-dramatic disturbances in a country rectory. Query, whether any responsible investigator might advise. Oh, I'm sorry. This is a recap, a more detailed recap of Act 1 there, or Act 2. Price arrived on June 12 of 29. He examined the writing with enough attention to assure Guy that he knew the difference between loose wire and a ghost. Wiring? Writing. Oh, I jumped a paragraph. I'm sorry. I need one more drink. Hold on. I'm jumping around. I'm doing too much right now. Yeah. I need to focus my brain. Price arrived on June 12 of 29 in a good suit and better spirits, accompanied by an assistant and a photographer. He carried a leather case containing thermometers, planchettes, notebooks, string, chalk, and the air of a man who expected to be entertained. He shook hands warmly, asked brisk questions, and insisted on seeing the bellboard first, as if a tour of the rectory, as if the tour of a factory must begin at the engine room. He examined the wiring with enough attention to assure Guy that he knew the difference between a loose wire and a ghost. He had a photographer take a plate of the board, then the corridor, then the room where the writings had appeared, and 2 faint lines and 1 clearer. Marianne, please help me get out. Price crouched, peered, and muttered something into his notebook, and asked for a paper with which to make a rubbing of the plaster texture. The activity during his first hours was of the modest, unnerving kind that convinces believers and infuriates skeptics. While Price stood in the corridor speaking to Guy about the temperature gradients, a small stone bounced lightly off of his waistcoat near his knee. The men turned at once. No one else was within reach, and minutes later, as the photographer shifted his tripod, a key clinked to the floor behind the men as if dropped by an invisible, careless hand. It belonged to a cupboard downstairs. The housekeeper swore she had left it on its hook. They moved to the drawing room. On the mantel, the same small mirror that had fallen on Christmas shivered, slid, and dropped again to the rug. Stopped at the edge of the hearth as if placed, not thrown. Price showed no alarm, only alertness. He asked where people had been standing, and his assistant chalk outlined their shoes. He took temperatures in each corner and in the center. He asked the photographer to take a plate of the mirror on the carpet before anyone touched it. Then he turned to Mabel and pleasantly said, "It's a very talkative house." Which, I mean, that doesn't drip of swag. I don't know what else does. I can imagine this guy, the very talkative house. The week following Price's visit saw a spike in small phenomena. Perhaps the house had been stirred. Perhaps the Smiths were primed. Either way, the notebook filled. And on June 14, footsteps tracked along the upper corridor and paused outside the guest room door. Guy, in the hall, felt a momentary pressure on his shoulder, like fingers that left no mark. On June 15, the bell in the old butler's pantry rang at 2:10 a.m. When Guy entered with a lamp, he found the pull cord disconnected, swaying slightly as if someone had just let it go. On June 17, the words, "Marianne, come," appeared lower on the wall, in a hard hand, as though the writer were kneeling. Mabel copied the spacing and height exactly. She began to measure not only what happened, but where. On one night in late June, a day after a day of interruptions and a long parish meeting, the Smiths retired early. Mabel set down her book. Guy doused the lamp. The house settled. Within minutes they heard steps coming along the corridor. Measured, unhurried, heavier than the housekeeper's tread, lighter than a man's boot. They halted at their door, but the latch did not lift. The steps remained there, waited silence pressing against the threshold, then retreated with the same measured count. Guy rose and opened the door into the corridor and felt cooler by several degrees than the room. His breath showed faintly in the light from the lamp as he lit from behind.
Cheap viewers on streamloo.com. Remove the space at bug 25.
Oh my god. Last week they were spot on. They stopped that shit before it happened. Well, let's go on and ban this person right quick. Stupid stoopers. Interrupting. Wow, what's going on? It wouldn't let me, won't let me ban that person. That's interesting. Huh. Okay. We can find whatever.
Good day.
Manimoo! How are you? So glad to have you. So glad to have you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you so much. I'm glad to have you here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Tonight we are talking about the Borley Rectory, and the hauntings happening there. We've come to a small crossroads where the original story, we've got a little extra detail about Price when he returned. Yeah, that's right. This is what we're talking about. We breezed over a lot of these details, but we're going back and filling in some of the blanks. So Price made a second short call in July, this time with two observers who sat separately in different rooms for an hour each, keeping independent logs. The logs, later compared, coincided on 2 points. Both heard a series of 3 taps on a wood roughly at the same minute. and both noticed a drop in temperature near the stairs landing. Price attempted a simple code with taps, 1 for yes, 2 for no, 3 for unknown, but the taps did not oblige the pattern beyond their own timing. He left...
On the wood.
Not on the wood.
Keep your hands off that wood.
He left promising a more scientific and systematic study when he could secure funding and a lease. The Smith smiled because that was what one does when somebody promises a remedy that you cannot accommodate. And thus they decided to leave. And in their last weeks in the rectory were a dissolve rather than a cut. Rooms emptied, carpet rolled, the house, unburdened on their furniture, seemed to grow, not outward, but inward, as if the corridors lengthened by their reclaiming air. The writing appeared twice more. One message, oddly careful, read, "Let me be." Mabel, who had always cleaned the scrawls as a matter of principle, left that one until the day they closed the door. On the final night, they slept in the small sitting room downstairs with their cases ready, like travelers in a station. They lit no fire. Wind pushed intermittently at the eaves. At about 2 a.m, the butler's bell rang once. No one moved to check it. You do not answer every call. And in the morning, they handed the keys to the church warden, locked the gate, and walked down the lane without looking back. Not a gesture of defiance, but because looking back would pretend a farewell where there was only relief. They had not seen anything. They had not solved anything. Houses rarely accept solution. They had simply stopped participating. So while the rectory stood vacant that autumn, caretakers did their rounds. They reported nothing dramatic. Cold patches were none were cold patches where none were expected. An occasional whiff of something like earth after rain in rooms that had stayed dry, and a sense, hard to dignify with language, that the house was listening. Villagers who took the lane at dusk said it felt wider, as if the hedges had drawn back to make space for something pushing past. A boy swore he saw the shadow of a coach on the road without the coach itself. So would it be a coach if it didn't have a coach? So a guy and a horse? So a couple of horses and a guy floating in the sitting position through the air?
WTF.
Right? Yeah. A coach without a coach. So a couple horses and a guy floating in the air. In the local public house, men built the case that the way men always have, by offering examples that suggest a pattern. A farmhand remembered tools set out in an odd line on the rectory step. A mason recalled a figure in a veil near the churchyard that seemed to ignore him. A policeman, careful with his words, mentioned a light in an upper window when the rectory was known to be empty. None of these claims were dramatic enough to make headlines, but all of them were sufficient to maintain belief. Okay, sorry for Act 2. It was a little long-winded. I skipped over a little bit. Act 2 was the fleshing out of Act 1. I'm sorry, we're going to move right on to Act 3. Thanks for bearing with me, folks. We're moving on. Here we go, my Ira Glass impression again. We're moving on to Act 3 of the program, Act 3, where we talk about Reverend Lionel Algernon Foyster and his experiences in October of 1930. That's right. Here we go. Act 3. When Reverend Lionel Algernon Foyster received the appointment to the Borley Rectory in October of 1930, he was in his mid-50s and in poor health, recovering from influenza that had left him weakened. His young wife, Marianne, yes, this Marianne. We've been hearing about Marianne for the last 3 acts. This is the first Marianne to come into the house. Amazed? I'm not.
I'm not saying it's space aliens, right? But it goes without saying it's fucking space aliens.
Okay, maybe not aliens. But his young wife was 23. Wait, how old was this guy again? He was in his mid-50s and his wife was 23? Sus. Sus. Yeah, we don't do that stuff. That's bad juju. Bad juju. There we go, yeah. Vivacious, practical, and according to most who met her, unshakable in the face of gossip. With him came Lionel's adopted daughter, Adelaide, a small child of 7 who would become both witness and victim in the months ahead. From the moment they arrived, it was clear this was no ordinary posting. Oh no, indeed. You just thinking, oh no. Just wait. It was clear that this was no ordinary posting. Lionel knew the rectory's reputation. He'd been briefed by the diocese. But he believed in a combination of Christian duty, healthy skepticism, and a domestic order. Marianne, less tied to the clerical reserve, treated the rumors with mild amusement. They both had read a few of the old newspaper stories about the Smiths, but the sensational headlines didn't match the sleepy autumn landscape they stepped into.
They would soon learn this was only a mask.
By the end of their first month, they were experiencing knocks on the walls and patterns. Yes, that's absolutely right. Wait. The band? The band? The Mask? The Mask? Is that a band? I don't know. I don't know. Don't judge me. Don't judge me.
The Smiths.
Similar, but not the same. Same name, different people. So no, not the band. Family. Yeah. That's as good as a joke as I can get you right now.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry. That was good though. Hey, it was a good punch. It was a good punch. I'll take it. So by the end of their first month, they were experiencing knocks on the walls and patterns of 3s and 5s. Bells ringing, even those long disconnected. Cold spots in certain doorways, notably the one between the kitchen and the pantry. Keys disappearing from hooks and reappearing in impossible places. But the activity escalated in a way neither of the Bulls nor the Smiths, not the band, had faced.
Violence.
It started with small things. Marianne was struck on the shoulder with a pebble while crossing the hall. So is getting a little tiny pebble. They used, so in the script it's the word pebble. It was getting hit on the shoulder with a pebble. Violence. I picture like a ghost being like, and it's just beep, and then Marianne like collapsing on the floor. Everyone. That's right, attack penguins. Yes. I picture Marianne crumpling to the floor after being struck by a small pebble on the shoulder, like the guys in the NBA will do when they get barely brushed. They'll do the flop. This was what Marianne was doing. Physical attacks, violence, small pebbles striking her on the shoulder. Yeah, I know, it's sad. It really is.
everybody do the flop zero.
Everybody do the flop. I would love to get that audio. I really need to get that on the soundboard. I need some ASDF audio clips for the soundboard. That would be great. Instead, we have stuff like this.
Who are you calling a cootie queen, you lit liquor?
Yeah. Class. That's right. I got class.
Is Frank's Red Hot even that good?
Is it really? Wait, I don't have like a curse word beep. That would be great. You know, I put that shit on everything. Beep. I put that beep on everything. Yeah,
I got ads.
Oh, jeez. Ads, boo. Boo ads. Yeah, the unfortunate side effect of watching somebody stream. I'm sorry. Wait. Let's see, do I have something... Wait. No. I don't have something smart for ads. I don't. I'll do a little what shirt are you wearing today dance. Welcome back. I'm dancing to our What Shirt Are You Wearing Today segment song. Alright, that's enough of that madness. Alright, thanks. I've got the moves like Jagger. Moves like Jagger.
Him wearing a fluffy hoodie.
I am not wearing a hoodie. I wanted to wear a hoodie. Because I love hoodies. I have many, many very collectible hoodies that I cannot wear because I run hot. The damn thermostat's set to like 59 in here and I'm still hot. My little legs are sweating.
It's winter in Australian 5 Rallia.
Oh, yeah. I forget that you guys are like the inverse of us here. It is smack dab in the middle of summer. But we did like 92 today. It wasn't bad, but... Hey, I'll take it.
5 degrees Celsius.
Ooh, how does that convert to Fahrenheit? Hey, Google. Convert 5 degrees Celsius to Fahrenheit.
5 degrees Celsius is equivalent to 41 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, 41 here. So that's...
Fridge 10.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. That is the temperature of my beverage. Cool indeed. I don't know how to make a spooky segue into a cold beverage and a fuzzy hoodie. Or fluffy hoodie, excuse me. But hey, it is what it is. Welcome. Welcome to the Spooky Podcast. I can't make a spooky segue, so I'm just gonna play sounds instead. Yeah, right, my beverage is also fizzy. Fizzy, not fuzzy. Same, but different. Alright, let's get back into Marianne being hit on the shoulder with this giant boulder. Inside the house, a book flew off the shelf and hit...
So good at typing.
I could see. That's okay. That is alright. You can be my co-host for the day. Let's get your witty banter about what I'm reading. Inside the house, a book flew off the shelf and hit Lionel in the back hard enough to leave a bruise. Spouse abuse. No, wait. It could be the wife. But to be fair, I could run into a door jam.
I could stream. Lazy.
I could run into a door jam and leave a pretty good bruise. I don't know if I've ever been the recipient of a book being thrown at me. I imagine I would be the unlucky recipient that the corner would catch me, like underneath the eye, and it would give me a black eye. And not a black guy, a black eye. But I would be the guy...
Get mystery bruises every 5 minutes. Ad.
Oh, yeah. It happens. I get them on my legs. It's weird. I don't get it. But I do work in the service industry. I do mechanical work, so it's I get cuts all day long. I have many. I have a chunk of fiberglass in my hand that's been here for... Yeah, you see it? See a little dot? That's fiberglass in my hand. It's been there for like 3 weeks now. I hate it. It drives me crazy. I just haven't gotten the strength to dig it out with a pair of freaking fingernail clippers. Anyway, let's get into this spousal abuse that's going on.
Oh my God!
Once while kneeling to tend the fire, Adelaide screamed, claiming someone had pinched her arm. Lionel saw red marks shaped like fingers. But by early 1931, the violence increased. Heavy items, a jar of ink, a candlestick, were thrown across the room. A large mirror was wrenched from the wall and smashed. Lionel himself reported being pushed from behind while on the stairs, nearly falling. Marianne was often the focus. Clothes tugged, hair yanked, once slapped across the face so sharply that Lionel recorded the sound in his notes.
Become a ghost.
Yes, this is the kind of stuff I want to do when I die. Except I'm going to be like, I'm going to poke you in the eye, or like pull the corner of your mouth while you're pooping. The stuff you're not going to expect. Like looking in the mirror in the bathroom and like you're picking at your face.
Lick their toes.
Lick the toes. That's totally acceptable. You're a ghost. Hey, you died. Let it ride, Clyde. This is what we do. I often think about how Harry Houdini said that when he died, he was going to, like, you would know if I can come back as a ghost. You're going to know because I'm going to pester the hell out of these people. Unfortunately, he was never able to manifest anything, but I would be the guy that, you know, you're at your mirror picking in your face, and like you're focusing on the mirror and looking, and then blop, ghost finger in the eyeball. Or, you know, grab your nose and hook it and yank it up. I'm going to do fun stuff like that. Lick a butt cheek while you're pooping. Yeah, now we're getting freaky. Yeah. Leave ghost poops in shoes. You feel the squish, the uncomfortable squish when you put a foot in your shoe, but then you take your foot out, there's nothing there. That's right. I'm gonna ghost poop in everybody's shoes. Do ghosts poop? Surely, right? Even if it's ghost poop, right? I don't know. But let's get back into this. We got a little bit.
Find out later.
Yes, we will. I will be the one. Surely, you will find random. Oh wait, camera's backward. Random, strange colored hairs around your house. You know it was me. It's pink now. My little strands are pink. So, if I go before everybody watching here tonight, just know if you find a random stray dyed hair around your house, it was me. It was me. But a side note, I want to say,
I got a whiff of cum the other night, so I got a wanker.
Yeah, that happens. I mean, hey, you gotta deal with what you gotta deal with when you're in the afterlife, right? I mean, let's be honest. If you were a ghost and you can go anywhere, do anything, and no one could see you, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? I mean, wouldn't you? Robert De Niro face.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So. Any hoots and hollers. Let's move forward. We got a little bit more script to do. We're down to the last quarter of the script. Clothes tug, hair yanked, one slapped across the face so sharply that Lionel recorded its sound in the notes. One chilling incident stands out in Marianne's own testimony. She was walking past the bottom of the stairs when a masonry block weighing over 500 pounds dropped from the landing above, missing her head by inches. And nobody was upstairs at the time. Just saying. That's a...
JFC.
Yeah, right? It's like, how do you... how do you justify that one? It wasn't long before the wall writings that had plagued the Smiths, not the band, began to reappear. This time more urgent, more dedicated, and unmistakably aimed at Marianne. Phrases scrawled in a shaky, almost childlike hand appeared overnight. They are, and I quote,
Marianne, please help me. Best mass prayers. Light the mass. Marianne, get help.
Lionel tried an experiment, leaving a pencil and paper in the rooms where the writing appeared, and on several occasions fresh writing was found on the paper in the same irregular hand. but never when anyone was watching. Marianne attempted to communicate directly, speaking aloud in the room, asking what the spirit wanted. One morning, a new phrase appeared on the wall.
Get light. Get help.
Lionel, through a rector, did not dismiss spiritual methods entirely. He and Marianne attempted informal seances in the dining room, inviting the entity to rap once for yes or twice for no. They received what seemed like coherent answers. Through these sessions, they were told a story that matched village legend. A nun walled up after a forbidden love affair with a monk, buried in unconsecrated ground. The spirit, if the raps were to be believed, wanted her remains found and buried properly. So now we've come back to the late great
Harry Price.
by now.
Monk sex is fire.
Oh, I bet it is. Yeah, like rabbit sex, like just 30 seconds done. Now get out of here. Get out.
Are you calling a cootie queen, you lint liquor?
So by now, the word at the Foysters is trouble reached Harry Price again. Sensing an opportunity to document the haunting in its most attractive phase, he visited Wow. Did I just have a stroke? A little brain aneurysm? Oh my gosh. Blah. He visited in October of 1931.
Possessed.
Yeah, the ghost got me. The ghost. Ghost got... Wait, I got a spooky sound. The ghost got me. So Harry Price visited again in October of 1939. I know, right? He brought cameras, recording equipment, and 2 assistants this time instead of 1. During his visit, small stones were thrown in his presence. A framed picture fell from the wall without a visible cause. A wine glass slid across the table towards the edge, then fell to the floor without shattering. Price noted in his log that, quote, activity seemed to increase when
Penguin returns.
the penguin. I don't have a penguin sound. What's my best sound? My best sound that's closest to a penguin. Boat? A boat sound? The penguin returns. Here we go. Creaking boats. Price noted in his log that the activity seemed to increase when Marianne was present, a detail that would later fuel accusations of fraud. Oh, this is too quiet. It's too quiet. We got to go back to our normal sound effects here. By 1935, Lionel's health had deteriorated further, of course, because he's like 115 years old. The relentless activity and the consistent attention from researchers, journalists, and thrill seekers had taken a toll on the entire family. Physical attacks continued. Adelaide was increasingly frightened. Adelaide? Who's Adelaide? Wait, that was the housekeeper? I don't know. Adelaide was somebody. I'm drinking, whatever. And Marianne was exhausted. Oh, Adelaide was the kid. Yeah, their adopted kid. I knew that. Yeah, that's right. I knew this. I was testing the listener.
Adelaide is the capital city of South Australia.
Oh, well, yeah. Obviously, the South capital of Australia was there. Obviously. I mean, what else could it be, right? I lost my place.
Duh.
Well, sorry. Where's Adelaide? I lost Adelaide. Adelaide was increasingly frightened and Marianne was exhausted. The Foysters decided to leave Borley, ending the most violent chapter in its history. They left behind walls still marked with faint scrubbed words, parish records thick with odd entries, and a house...
Very good at distracting people.
Oh, you're great. That's good. Yeah, so like I'm leaving my cursor where I'm at now. You're not going to get me again. Yeah, I got you. I see what you're doing. But Jesus Christ, I lost my place. You got me. You got me. Yeah, you got me. Yeah. I love that voice chat. That's great. Oh, jeez. Now I gotta read in my freaking head. Oh yeah, here we go. Adelaide was increasingly frightened. Marianne was exhausted. The Foysters decided to leave Borley, ending the most violent chapter in its history. They left behind walls marked with faint, scrubbed words, parish records thick with odd entries, and a house that seemed to breathe when empty. The Foyster era, in this point, at which the Borley Rectory haunting became something more than noises and sightings, it became physical and dangerous. It's almost to the point where Harry Price positioned himself for the next phase, his year-long lease in the most famous investigation in British ghost lore. So, I said the S word. Blah. I gotta do a drink. We are seeing a repetition.
Did you? I missed it.
Yeah, the S word is S-O. That is it's my filler word when I don't know. I try not to say or I use so. And when I say the S word too much, it's the drinking game. When I say so, you drink. And we get trashed by the end of the podcast. Which is why I burned through 3 of these already. And
Ads.
ads. We're on the number 4. It's fine. I need the pause. Singular ads. Singular wireless? Am I the only one in this chat old enough to remember that? Yeah, I'm old.
Ad.
Oh my god. Oh, okay. Singular ad. I gotcha.
M39.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool. So we're about the same age. I'm 40. I remember Singular Wireless. It was this is when I was younger. And got my information stolen because they got hacked. Cool. Thanks. Yeah, Singular Wireless. Joke. But hey, better than a prepaid phone.
Fun.
Tell me about it. Still dealing with that today. So we've come to Act 5, everybody. Act 5. Ira Glass voice. We've come to Act 5 of the program, Act 5, where we talk about the legacy and the debate of the Borley Rectory, where we talk about where we talk about Harry Price's final word on the property and why the house is so haunted. So let's move on to the legacy and debate section, Act 5. When the last walls of the Borley Rectory came down in 1944, it may have been reasonable to think that the story was over. The bricks were hauled away, the gardens became overgrown, and the Nun's Walk was nothing more than a line in the grass. But if the house was gone, the legend was not. In many ways, the real afterlife of Borley Rectory began after its physical death. In 1940, a year after the fire that destroyed the house, Price published The Most Haunted House in England. The book presented decades of sightings, diary entries, séance transcripts, and photographs, weaving the Bulls, Smiths, not the band, and the Foysters and his own investigations into one grand narrative. For many readers, this was their first introduction to the Borley Rectory, and it was
compelling.
To many believers, Price's work was the definitive proof that the Borley Rectory was unique, a haunting persistent over decades with multiple credible witnesses and phenomena. Compelling. A haunting that persists over decades with multiple credible witnesses and phenomena too varied to fake. To skeptics, it was theater, an artful arrangement of coincidence, hearsay, and selective reporting. After Price's death in 1948, the SPR, that's the Society for Psychical Research, launched a 2-year re-examination of the Borley case. Their findings, published in 1956, were damning. The report concluded that many of the events could be explained by natural causes, misinterpretations, or outright fraud, particularly implicating Mary Ann Foyster, who admitted in years later that she had faked some of the incidents to cover for personal matters, though she insisted that the majority of the events were genuine. Yeah, that's how I feel about that. The SPR also accused Price of embellishing his accounts, staging phenomena during his lease period, and failing to critically assess witness statements. To Price's supporters, these were character attacks by rivals. To his critics, they were overdue corrections. In the 1950s, Mary Ann Foyster, living in Canada, gave interviews acknowledging she had occasionally moved objects or written on the walls to test Price and other investigators, but she maintained that many incidents, particularly the physical attacks and Adelaide's experiences, were real. Her accounts added a human complexity to the case. Borley was not only a site of supposed supernatural forces, but also a home where stress, illness, marriage strains, and the relentless glare of publicity shaped how events unfolded. So after the demolition, the land remained... The freaking ghost got me again. I'm really glad you can't see the beer dripping down my chin right now. Okay. I didn't use the S word. Okay. Even after demolition, the land retained its pole. In the decades since, paranormal investigators have visited the site of the rectory's foundations, reporting strange lights in the adjoining fields, voices on tape where none were present, a quote, feeling of being watched near the old Nuns Walk, and a sudden drops in temperature near the old cellar location. The nearby Borley Church, which predates the rectory by centuries, has also been a focus of ghost hunters. Yeah, sorry. It happens. With reports of shadow figures, footsteps in the gallery, and a robed figure seen in the churchyard. Borley's Rectory story has been told and retold in countless books, documentaries, radio plays, and even in films. It appears in almost every major survey of haunted locations. The phrase, quote, the most haunted house in England, is now inseparable from the village's name, even if the building is no longer standing. In paranormal circles, Borley is held up as a case study in long-term hauntings, a cautionary tale about investigators' bias, and a cultural legend that mixes folklore, fact, and fabrication in equal measure. Part of Borley's standing power lies in its layers. It isn't just one ghost story, it's several overlapping across decades. The Bowles' quiet apparitions of the nun, the Smiths, not the band, mysterious wall writings, the Foysters' violent poltergeist activity, Harry Price's elaborate investigation, and the fire in the bones of the cellar. Each layer adds an entry point for belief or disbelief. You can dismiss one chapter and still find another compelling. The case resists being tied up neatly, which is why it's never gone away.
I have to join a Zoom call soon, skeptical smiley face.
Well, perfect timing because we've come to the end. Let's break it down. What do we think is really happening? So, I'm not 100% sure. Oh, so we got like 15 minutes. Can you hang out for 15 minutes? I wouldn't mind having your opinion on the matter.
Yes.
Sweet.
Perfect.
So let's look at everything in a nutshell. So it started off folklore-ish with
I have
the...
the window open, ready to click join.
Oh, fantastic. If you gotta go, you gotta go. Do what you gotta do. Don't let me hold you up. I am very unimportant. So we started off with the haunting of the nun. The residual haunting of the nun. And the residual haunting of the... Wait, what is it called again? The coach. The coach. Yeah. So we had the residual haunting of the nun and the coach. Initially. The first family. And they were supposedly a residual haunting of the apparition of the nun and the monk that she was cavorting with. Yeah. Which is why she was walled up in a building, alive, and why the monk was put to death. And then it escalates. We see a lot of residual haunting-esque things. Footsteps leading up to a door, then walking away. Cold spots. I'm not sold on the cold spots. So, I said the S word. Where's my drink? The cold spots. The cold spots are near the cellar. Let me put it this way. If you have a room that is inherently cold, the doorway by that room is going to be cold. Is it so crazy? Is it?
Cellar are cold, yeah.
Yeah. So if you had a room in a cellar and you walk by the doorway and you're like, ooh, it's cold. It must be a ghost. No. You've got a cellar, bruh. Bruh. You got a cellar. It's going to be cold. That's what cellars do. That's why we used to store food there. They're cold, inherently. That's what they do. So I'm not going to say the cold spots were a thing. So then we get to the third family. Sounds happen, okay, creaking floorboards, what have you. I live in an old house. This house is built in the 1920s. It makes all sorts of sounds. It wakes me up in the middle of the night. I'm the hair trigger sleeper. If I hear any sound while I'm sleeping, I jump up and my fists are like pumping in case somebody's right there at the foot of my bed. And usually it's just the house making noises. I've done poking around in here. There's nothing here. I don't live near a graveyard. It's just not consecrated ceremonial Native American burial ground over here. This was swampland 100 years ago. Houses make sounds. That's what they do. They settle. I live near the coast. Houses settle. My house is settling now. I've heard sounds since we were podcasting tonight. That's right. You see what I'm saying? You get it. However, the footsteps unsettle me a bit. The fact that the writing is consistent. Oh wait, we didn't. I didn't show you the pictures. I've got some pictures. Oh shit. Hold please. Here we go. We've got photos. So these are supposedly photos of the apparitions at this Borley Rectory. Let's give this a pause so we can.
MMM hate that.
Yeah. All right, so this is the first and most famous photo of the Borley Rectory. I'm sure you see the giant red circles. The one on the left, sure, maybe. It could be anything at this point. The building doesn't even have a roof. It could be anything. The one on the right, is that not the same piece of trim that's above it? Or whatever it is that's... It's making the line along the edge of the window? I don't know. It's really far-fetched. It's... I don't feel good about it. I don't. You see where I'm leaning already. Let's go to the next one. And...
B+W photos always just look creepier.
Right? Yeah, so... I don't know... Well, no, you can't see my mouse, but... Like... Right here... Apparently, this is the nun walking. So, let's compare that to what's further down. And couldn't you just say that it's pattern of light through the trees like the rest of the photo? Really? Really?
Who are you calling a cootie queen, you lint liquor?
I don't feel great about these photos. These are the only two photos I could pull up that weren't heavily copyrighted that I could show on the podcast.
Red nun walking sounds like a metal band.
Yeah. We got a new follower, everybody. We got a new follower. Holy Jesus. Who was it? I don't get the... I heard the sound. The animation was behind everything. Who is it? Who are you that is following me? I haven't got the notification yet. Anyway. Thank you for following. Whoever you are, stranger.
Ghost shrink. Who knew I'm a ghost? Hey, Holly.
Thank you for the follow. Thank you so much. I do believe that you're new to the channel. Oh, wait. I should know you. You know Mon Amour, but you... Wait, do you know me? I don't know. I don't think know. I don't know these things. We're looking at ridiculous photos of ghosts. I don't think that we saw any real definitive evidence here tonight. Oh, okay. Cool. Well, hey. I'm Victus, previously known as Fuzzy Kitten Butts. Long...
Shared the podcast on Discord.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Moni posted in the Discord to come.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You're amazing. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Wow, people actually look at your Discord. I've been the only person in my Discord for like 2 years now. Yeah, I am not a popular person. That's the way it goes. Anywho, yeah, welcome, Ollie. Yeah, thank you so much for follow. Appreciate it. This is Beyond the Shadows podcast, where we take an alcohol-fueled... well, you're doing better than me. We take an alcohol-fueled, obsessive look at paranormal cases.
Would love this.
Well, invite them. Tag them, bruh.
Free this.
We take an alcohol-fueled, obsessive look at paranormal cases, and we try to decipher whether or not these are really real. And tonight we're looking at the Borley Rectory, the quote-unquote most haunted place in England. And this is the best evidence we got.
I don't believe in ghosts, etc.
Well, I don't believe in these ones. I don't think these were real.
I'm from England.
Oh. Do you know about the Borley Rectory? What is your opinion on the matter?
Ads.
Oh my gosh. Ads. Ads. Always ads. Always ads. Why is it always ads? I wish ads didn't exist. The worst thing to happen to anybody who's a streamer or is on any type of social media platform. I can remember back in my day, when there weren't too many ads on YouTube. Oh, and we walked to school uphill both ways in the snow. Yeah. Yeah, ads are junk. Jeez. If I could afford it and it were a thing, I would make my stream ad-free. I would love that. There's no reason for ads. Like, they're not making enough money off of selling our personal freaking data. Yeah, I get my feelings about that. I hate ads. I really do. It's junk. Not all of us can afford to subscribe. I get it.
Done. I'm back.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for coming back. Welcome back. Yes, I spent the entire ad break complaining about ads.
Some money from them.
Yeah, it's not much. Doing like $50 a year. Not upset. Money's money. Any hoots. Yeah, we're trying to decipher whether or not the Borley Rectory in England, I couldn't tell you precisely where it is. I've had...
I don't care.
Yeah, I don't quite remember
It's not.
where it's at. I've had several very strong beverages since the start of the podcast, and I don't quite remember where it is. Borley? That's where it is. Let me drink to that. Any hoots. Glad you're here. Yeah, we do our best to pick apart the paranormal and all the spooky things that... Yeah, well, you know more than I did, obviously. I wrote a 20,000 word script about this, and I still don't know where it is.
80 miles.
Why don't you run over there, punch some ghost shadows, or some lights coming through the trees, like this. Obviously, lights, shadows, not ghosts. And come back and tell us all about it. Glad to have you here. Thank you so much for the follow. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming to at the end of it. We've hit.
Anything but ghosts.
It really is. So, I do believe in residual hauntings. I think initially we were dealing with residual hauntings with this case. The residual haunting of the nun that was put to death and the monk that was executed. However, the rest of this just feels like it was very, very, very heavily influenced by local folklore. We're dealing with a small town in Essex, as we've known, that small towns, word travels. This is what happens. And
I imagine the rectory just make money off it.
I don't think there's anything left. It's been burned to the ground. It mysteriously caught on fire sometime in the 1940s. Yeah. What it is, it's some kid running around and some kid running around with a matchbook and just...
I love it.
Yeah. It didn't mysteriously catch on fire. Some kid was playing with matches, caught the old dried wood from the 1600s on fire, and the rest of it went up in smoke. This place is not haunted, folks. I can...
I hear it got burned down, surely.
Yeah, it's gone. There's nothing left to this day. I did look it up on Google Maps before we started the night. It's a field. Today it's a field. There's like lots of people posting about taking photos. All right, Money Moon.
People love to add paranormal stuff to boring places.
Yeah, People took pictures and said, "Oh, well, I saw this
See y'all moaning.
ghostly thing happen." Thanks, Moni, for being here tonight. I appreciate it. You're amazing. You brought my energy out tonight. Thank you so much, Manamu. Thank you so much. Oh, wait.
Thank you so much.
But yeah, this isn't paranormal. I think it started off with something kind of paranormal. I do believe in residual hauntings. I do believe that perhaps they saw this.
You think if ghosts are able to be photographed, they would be more photographed.
Right. Unless they follow the vampire rule. Like, vampires can't be photographed because they can't be photographed because cameras use a mirror to capture the image. So who's to say?
Yeah, maybe vamps.
Say maybe ghosts can't be photographed for the same rule. Very possible. But yeah.
But what about mirrorless?
But still, I mean, look at this photo. Tell me this was taken with a cell phone. This looks horrible. This is more grainy.
The rule for vamps is it's pure metals that don't reflect.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But however, there have been no credible photographs taken in the Borley Rectory in the last 50, 100 years.
Modern cams are going to something else, not a pure polished metal.
I concur with your statements. And they're correct. This is good logic. The logic is sound. It's my Star Trek line for the night. But yeah, we've come to the day and age. Everybody's got a phone. Everybody's got a damn camera, a really good camera, in their hand, constantly. Why don't we have better pictures?
Dim like a vampire, can't do bright light, must be specifics LLLY invited to go anywhere. Don't sleep, don't etc. Always look young.
Well, I think...
I like ghost stuff, but I don't believe it. I like the psychology of it.
Oh, fantastic. This is a good point of view. Yes, Manamu, this is the same thing with me. People often think I am a vampire for my youthful looks. However, I am 40 years old. I am not 17, 18, 20, 25. I don't know.
400.
Oh, you are 400 or I am? I mean, secret's out. Anywhoots. Yeah, the Borley Rectory.
Both are.
Okay, cool. That was that year. I remember it. Yeah, they were turning everybody that year. Everybody.
Mon is safe.
Yeah. So we've come to the point where we've got to make a decision. Is the Borley Rectory truly haunted? In a nutshell, no. It's not. However,
No.
it perfect timing. However, I think initially we were dealing with some residual hauntings. The nun walking on the path, I feel, was residual. I feel the black coach, the black horses, was residual. Because there was powerful psychic energy behind the death of...
Phoenix, haha.
There was powerful psychic energy behind the execution of the monk and the walling up of the nun.
I'm sad I missed this.
Oh yeah, we've been here for 2 hours now talking. You should get in next Sunday. Or well, it's Sunday my time. I don't know what day it
Not
is.
when I eat dairy.
I don't know what day it is where you are. I don't know what the time difference is. It's Sunday here.
Olimo.
Oh, jeez. We've been talking so much. I gotta use the bathroom now. I gotta...
Monday, 12:05 a.m.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. It's Sunday here. 7:05 p.m.
Monday,
Eh,
Just past midnight.
gross. Okay, so I do need to use the bathroom. 2 seconds. Don't go anywhere. We're gonna wrap this thing up. And then I gotta check on my puppy. He's downstairs, unattended. I gotta check him out. Be right back, folks. Don't go anywhere. I returned. Do we want to see the puppy? Do people want to see the puppy? I'd be willing to show my puppy all over the stream. I'll show everybody my puppy.
Yes.
Hey,
Show puppy.
okay, come here. Hold on, he's
I will
being.
come back if I see a puppy.
It's my baby boy. This is Basil.
Ah,
Say hello to the interwebs.
hello, buddy.
He's a good boy. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I like your era.
My era?
They look thin and soft.
Oh yes. They are lovely. He's a handsome boy. He's a boy. Oh yeah. He's a boy. He's my bro. Yeah, I'm talking about you. I'm talking about you.
I'm talking to Basil.
Oh yes. He loves being at the desk because there's lights and lots of things to chew on. He's my bro. He's my bro.
He looks lovely.
He is wonderful. He is often here. Most people don't see him. But he is always here.
Do you go ghost hunting?
I used to, many years ago. It used to be a thing I did 15 years ago, maybe more, maybe less. 15-ish did some ghost hunting. It was really hard to work a day shift and ghost hunt at night.
Do you
But
enjoy it?
oh yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. That's why I podcast today, because I can do my own investigation and make my own decisions based on research without having to stay up until 5 a.m. So, you know, I'm still doing what I enjoy, but not having to stay up all night. In fact, I will go to sleep soon after this podcast ends, because I'm an old man and I go to sleep early. You want to go see your sister?
I have friends that are into ghosts, and I like talking to them about it.
It's a cool subject. It's not for everybody, admittedly. Season 1, we did have an ordained minister as a co-host, And he was always like our grounding rod. He was quick to be like, no, that's not real. That's not real. But I think he would agree with me on this case that this puppy is standing on my arm.
I can do that.
Yeah, he would agree with me that this case is just rubbish. It's not great. I think we started off.
With paranormal things.
Oh, well, I mean, this is a paranormal podcast, but still, it's good to have somebody objective. They are taking some time off for this season. I'm hoping to have them back by season 3. But, they'll be back whenever they're done. They're doing some personal things, taking some time off, focusing on themselves. Kudos, do your thing. But hopefully they'll be back next season. But yeah, it was nice having him. He also is licensed and certified to do regression hypnosis therapy. And we've done a number of cases that dealt with...
Still enjoy it and ask questions. I'm not an asshole trying to call everyone a liar.
No, it's totally fine. This is what we do. We do our best to take all of the knowledge in and make a conscious effort to decide whether or not what we're dealing with through research, whether or not it's truly paranormal. That's part of the podcast. It's what we do. A lot of the times we say, yeah, this is probably paranormal. We can't explain it through traditional scientific terms. However, tonight is a little different.
Sounds great.
I think tonight we're just dealing with, it's a small town in Essex that was probably a little too inundated with itself. You want to go play? You want to play? You're looking over at off in the horizon like you want to play. Okay, tell everybody good night. Tell them all good night.
Yeah, I read about this place and it's not even a good story.
Okay. Well, your leg's all caught up in my headphone cable, bro. Ugh, it's gonna... Oh my god. Okay, there we go. Oh, well, I had the cable free from your legs. There we go. Go for it. Go forth and be merry. Sorry about that. I do have a cat as well. She's sitting over there, and that's what he was staring at. They love each other, and they're now sitting next to each other, very close. Anywho, yes, we're just dealing with...
I want to believe it, but I can't, sir. IJSIT enjoy the idea of it. Ads again.
Stupid ads, oh my goodness. But yeah, this is what we do. We take the whole case, all of the history behind it. We take all of the evidence that we can accumulate. In the span of a week it takes me to compile all this data for the episode. And we do our best to make a concerted judgment on whether or not this is really paranormal. And I think tonight we're not dealing with anything paranormal per se. And I've said it once already, I'll say it again. We started off, it was paranormal. Sure, I think maybe the first family was dealing with a residual haunting. But when the psychic energy fades, so do the residual hauntings. And I think, and the reason I think this is a residual haunting is it's only after somebody new comes into the house. And I think it's somebody with latent psychic abilities they don't know about, comes into the house, lives there for a while, feeds the psychic energy well that's there, and makes the residual haunting start again. So I think the nun is a residual haunting, and I think that the coach is a residual haunting. However, the rest of it, I have a hard time believing it. I don't see any real solid evidence to prove to me that what we saw in this research is specifically a haunting. Now, the fact that we had... What's his name? Hold on, what was his name? We had Harry Price show up. So he was very prominent in the 1940s. He did his job. He was very objective, skeptical. He did his due diligence with the investigations. I feel like maybe this was close to one of his last investigations, and that maybe he yucked it up a little bit to kind of like fuel the fire. You know what I'm saying? That maybe he was, feeding into it a little bit. Maybe, gave false testimonies, what have you. Yeah. And sure, he's a very famous investigator. I can see how this investigator was influenced by local lore. So if he's an investigator and he's thorough, he's going to go around town and talk to people and say, hey, what is your opinion on this place? Do you think it's haunted? And I think that perhaps him going into town and doing his due diligence, which is usually a good thing, may or may not have backfired. That it caused him to have a biased idea of what was going on in the rectory. And it's like staring off into the dark, pitch black in front of you, and somebody tells you, oh, but there's ghosts in there. Well, you're going to see ghosts because your brain will fill in the gaps for what you can't see. And I think that's what we're dealing with here. There's a word for this type of phenomena. I can't think of what it is. But
Influenced his investigation.
right, precisely. Any investigator worth their salt would have gone around and interviewed local folks before going to the house. I would. And I'm just a lowly podcaster, right? And so maybe it influenced his results. He was peering into the darkness, seeing what he wanted to see, and it maybe biased his decision about what he was really seeing in his investigation. And same thing with his two or three, independent investigators. They probably were with him and probably heard the same things he heard, and that biased his decision. I don't see anything concrete. I don't see anything that makes me go, because we're dealing with things, freaks, house. The house is old. It happens. The pebble being thrown, the keys being dropped. Mysterious, sure. However, let me take you back to season 1 when we talked about the Enfield Poltergeist. We had some of the very similar things happening. We had stones and coins dropping from the ceiling, seemingly out of nowhere. But at the end of the day, we said that the Enfield Poltergeist wasn't real. That it was likely the children. And it seems odd that the escalation of paranormal activity happens when a family with a child moves in. Is that so far-fetched? A child moves in. However, you noticed here in Act 4 and 5, when we were talking about the last family to live there, they had a child, but they didn't talk about the child at all. So we can say pretty definitively that nobody in the course of this investigation looked at their children. It sounds to me like a child being mischievous. Keys showing up where they shouldn't be. Pebbles being thrown. Knocks from rooms you don't know. Like, do you always know where your children are? I don't have kids, but like my cat just left. I don't know where she's at. She could be making noise in the other room. I'm not going to say it's paranormal.
Yes, yes.
So, oh my gosh, I said the S word. Drink. SO. I don't think this is a legitimate haunting. I think initially it was a haunting, a residual haunting, because I do believe firmly in residual hauntings. It can happen. I've seen it firsthand. However, I do believe that the psychic energy faded and we dealt with people wanting. I mean, this was, mid to late.
Hits by ad. I'm listening while walking. Greater than less than.
I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here, Shark. I'm glad you're here. Let's give a round of applause for Shark showing up tonight. We're doing great tonight, folks. Geez, we had 5 viewers at one point. Wow. Yeah, it's been a good night. Perhaps my drunk rambling is where I need to focus on a little more. Or maybe it's the puppy. I don't know. But yeah, I think we're dealing with the initial haunting, probably residual. And from that point forward, once the residual haunting faded, I think we're dealing with a family that wants to keep the interest in the rectory because at the end of the day, it's still a church, right? Well, it's a place where the pastor lives. We're still bringing people to the church, right? People are still interested. They're still coming. They're coming from around the world to look at this church area. Church area? I don't know what the exact definition of a rectory is, but I'm assuming it's where the pastor lives and the church is nearby. At the end of the day, in a nutshell, we are bringing people to the church. And I think they were living up to that expectation, the social expectation of, yeah, this place has a little bit of a history and it's a little spooky, but, let's embellish it a little bit just to get people to come to the church. Is that so far-fetched? I mean, people back in, 1600s would say anything to get you to come to the church. Tell you that the world was ending. All that shit. Who's to say that the people running that church didn't fabricate a little bit just to get people to come to the church? Am I wrong? Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong.
That sounds very likely.
Right. It's not so far-fetched when you really look at it objectively. Puppy sitting over here looking at the cat. But so yeah, I don't think that the Borley Rectory is truly haunted. I think it was at one time, but it's not today. So with that being said, we have an unprecedented number of people in chat tonight. What are we going to talk about next Sunday? Well, next Sunday, next Monday. It seems like everybody that watches is overseas. That's fine. I'm not upset. What do y'all want to talk about next week? So last week we talked about, let me see. I've already forgotten. Shame on me. Last week was the Pascagoula abduction. The week before that was the Flatwoods Monster. The week before that was skull experiments. Probably cryptid. Do you guys want to hear a cryptid story next week? Oh, my pink hair in this light makes me look like I'm bald right here. I'm not bald. That's pink. Oh.
Mad Queen of Castle Rising.
Mad Queen of Castle Rising? I don't know that one. I'm gonna look it up right now. Oh, it's a ghost story. But we just did a ghost this week. We gotta break it up, otherwise people get bored. Do we want to do a cryptid, a UFO?
Okay.
You gotta keep people guessing. I will keep that one on the list. You know, I'm gonna put it on the dry erase board right now.
UFO.
Ooh.
I love UFO stuff.
Okay, I've got the Mad Queen of Castle Rising on the board. We will probably cover it here in like 2 weeks, just to give a little bit of space between ghost episodes. Yeah, let's do a UFO.
Here's a haunted pub near me.
I mean, last week we did UFO, but, you know, we could do it in the UFO. It's fine. We've had an unprecedented number of ghost stories lately, and...
The Adam and Eve pub.
The Adam and Eve pub? I didn't know that one. Never heard of that. Ooh. Okay. I mean, if we can pull enough research together to do 2 hours, I will do it. I will cover both. I'm totally fine with covering viewer suggestions. I'm going to add this one to the dry erase board too.
They're local ghost stories from my city.
I'm going to put a star next to that one. Stars. The Adam and Eve pub. If you can read my horrible handwriting. So we've got the Adam and Eve pub and the Queen of Castle Rising on the list. This is great. This is what we want, folks. This is why I bought my $25 dry erase board. So we can add things to the queue. But yeah, let's shoot for something UFO related next week. I have no clue what we're going to do, but I'll find something between now and then. But yeah, let's do a UFO next week. That sounds totally fine. This little puppy's down here licking my leg. You want to come up here? No? Okay. He wants to go play with his sister. It's fine. I thought we did a great closing with the puppy. It's fine. It's fine. Alright, so next week we're going to do something UFO related. Not quite sure what yet, but we will do something. The last...
I'll try and collate some ghost UFO stuff for when I... Next, here, smiley face.
Yeah, hey, QR code. Wait. QR code over here. That's the link to all of our links. And the email down here, beyondshadowspodcast@gmail.com. You can email us. It's totally fine. I'll read everybody's stories. I don't care. Send me links. I'll give you shout outs. I love it when people suggest things. It takes a little bit of the guesswork out. Glad to have input. I really am. But that being said, we do have a little tiny bit to read. And do we have anybody worth rating? Let me see. I don't usually have this number of people in chat. Who's streaming? Let's see. Yeah, the lowest streamer that I follow is doing 36.3 thousand viewers. we'll just end the stream there. With my little 5. Yeah. Sorry you guys are here. I'm sure there's something far more interesting you could have watched, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's been very fun. Thanks for the stream.
I look forward to having you back. So, I stream every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's U.S. time. If it's midnight there.
Was still interesting. I love a good old-fashioned haunted mansion.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I'm not good at the conversion. Let me see if the GOOGLE can tell me. Yeah, I don't think they got that quite right. It says that I start streaming at 7 a.m. on Mondays. Is that right? Is it early morning there? No, it's like midnight there. Yeah, I don't get it. But it's 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time that we stream every Sunday. And if you look on my schedule, it should be down below in Twitch. It should...
Here it's midnight.
Right, so it should be like 10 p.m. on Sunday, if I do that math right. So like 10 p.m. on a Sunday.
Around 10 p.m.
Yeah. 10 p.m. on a Sunday. Come on in. We do this every Sunday religiously. I do not take weekends off. 52 weeks a year, we do this. Right here. We've been going for over a year now. We do not take time off. So... I'll be glad to have you next Sunday. Very glad. And I'm so grateful for everybody that showed up tonight. Thank you, Shark. Thank you, Ollie. Thank you, Monamu. I know you're in a Zoom meeting right now. Thank you, Lip. Lip is the great supporter of this podcast. Lip has been with me for many, many weeks now. And my ride or die... My ride or die. Thank you, Lip, for being here tonight. Thank you, Ollie, for being here. Thank you so much. I'm glad to have new people in the chat. It makes the podcast more engaging, for sure. That it's not just me reading a script. I thrive off of the input the other people give.
LUL pleasure as always. Have a good evening all.
Yeah, very glad to have everyone here tonight. So I'm going to read my closing statement tonight. And we're going to get the hell on out of here. And hopefully I'll see everybody next weekend. And we'll talk about something UFO related. Be prepared for spookiness all the way around. So that being said, if you've got a story that happened to you, or you know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that had something paranormal happen to them, email us at beyondtheshadowspodcast@gmail.com. I will read your email on the podcast and let everybody in the universe know all about your story. Thank you, everybody that's followed and subscribed. Lots of new subscribers on the YouTube channel. Every one of you are amazing. You keep me going. You give me the drive I need to keep doing what I need to do every week to investigate the paranormal. That being said, we're going to go into our closing statements and get out of here. Thank you, everybody, tonight. It's been a wonderful evening, and my puppy and I are going to go watch some cartoons after this and eat a pizza. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Here is the closing monologue.
They called it the most haunted house in England. For some, it was the place of restless spirits, their stories etched into the plaster and the cold air of its corridors. For others, it was a stage, a place where belief and deception danced until even the players couldn't tell the difference. Today, the rectory is gone. But walk the lane on a still night and locals will tell you the nun is still there. She still walks, her silent steps falling where gravel once crunched under living feet. They'll tell you that the ground remembers, that some houses never really die. The truth? Maybe it's burned within the walls, maybe it's still there, watching. Because in the end, Borley Rectory wasn't just a house, it was a mirror. One that showed each visitor exactly what they were looking for. So no matter what you do, don't give in to the skeptics saying that mirrors fall and keys fall on cobblestones where no one is standing. But no matter what you do, make sure you follow us. Beyond Shadows. Good night, everybody. Have a good one.
It's alive! It's alive!
A creature like that, how would it ever die?
And this monster starts running right at me.
Annihilated by nuclear bombs.
Beast is not dead. I put 4 bullets into him.
Why, you're crazy.
But I saw that monster too. All I want is for someone to believe me.
Contaminated.
Face. Horrible. Looked like it would scare you to death.
All right, let's get to work.
Beyond the Shadows.